You are having food right properly. Nutrition is also very important. Recording start again. Good morning, you all. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Right. So, is PPT is visible?
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It's visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Now? PPT is
Yes, ma'am.
visible? Visible or not PPT? Vedika?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So, good morning, everybody. Hope you all are safe and fine. So, in the last class, we have started understanding the different principles or the factors which are mainly responsible for the maintenance of the blood flow. Those are the hemodynamics. So, we were studying about the different functional classification or the physiological classification of the vascular system. We have studied about Wind-Kessel vessels, then resistance vessels, then we have studied the exchange vessels, capacitance vessels, etc. Okay. Then we have started studying about the different laws and different principles which are involved in the maintenance of the circulation or the blood flow, right? So we have studied the relationship between blood flow, velocity and the cross-sectional area, how the velocity is related to the blood flow and cross-sectional area, right? So velocity is directly proportional to the blood flow and it is inversely proportional to the cross-sectional area. If the if the blood flow increases, the velocity of the blood flow increases. If the cross-sectional area increases, the velocity decreases. If the cross-sectional area decreases, the velocity increases. Okay. So the blood flow and the velocity are the main components of the exchange of the blood vessel, exchange of the nutrients and all. So, and also we have studied the Bernoulli's principle, stating the relationship between velocity, pressure, and the blood flow, right? So, which that is the total energy is equal to kinetic energy plus potential energy. So, we have studied in detail about the Bernoulli's principle, how it is clinically important, how we have like, so if the cross-sectional area or the pressure, if the cross-sectional area becomes very less, then the kinetic energy becomes more, the potential lateral pressure decreases, that is the static pressure decreases. So that is mainly responsible for the mainly for the exchange of the nutrients and all. So that will affect. So we have studied in the last class about the aortic stenosis, how it is leading to myocardial infarction because of the increase in the kinetic energy, decrease in the lateral pressure. So which is mainly, hello? What? Is it audible? Kindly mute everybody. Is it audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right. So because the lateral pressure is mainly meant for the perfusion of the tissues. So if the lateral pressure decreases, then the perfusion will be affected. The lateral pressure depends on the kinetic energy. If the kinetic energy increases, the lateral pressure decreases. Okay, that again the kinetic energy or the which is that this dynamic component, it again depends on the velocity, cross-sectional area, pressure gradient, etc. Right? We have studied till this in the last class. Now we are going to, I think I have given some assignment for you. Anybody have done? Anybody have read about the types of the blood flow? Ram? Varshini? All you are there physically, or just you have muted and enabled video and audio and you are roaming here and there? Or you are there, you are listening the class?
No, ma'am.
Right. Varshini.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
have you read about the blood flow, different types of blood flow?
No, ma'am.
No. Who have read? Anybody have read? Right. So we have the two types of blood flow, that is laminar blood flow and the turbulent blood flow. Okay, the laminar blood flow is also called as what? The
Streamline flow, ma'am.
hmm?
Laminar blood flow is also known as streamline flow.
Yes, very good. Streamline blood flow is also known as streamline blood flow. So why it is called as streamline?
Because the flow occurs in layers, I guess.
Why it occurs in layers?
Ma'am, because the blood near to the wall of vessel does not move due to frictional resistance.
Right.
So the next layer moves with lesser velocity, and so the one over slide over other one.
Right, very good. So why in the laminar blood flow we have the streamline blood flow? Because the blood flow in layers. Why it is so? We are going to study. And we have a turbulent flow. We have two types of blood flow: the laminar flow and the turbulent flow. Okay. So the laminar blood flow, it is also called a streamline blood flow. Why? Because the blood flows in layers. Why the blood flows in layers? You can see the velocity of the different layers of the blood which is moving in the wall, in the vessels. You can see the velocity is very less at the velocity of the blood layer which is present near the vessel. It's very less compared to the center. You can see gradually the velocity of the blood increases when it comes to the center. You can see at the center we have the more velocity of the blood flow, so that then gradually decreases towards the vessel. Why it is so? Because when the layer of the blood comes contact with the wall of the vessel, so what will happen? Because there will be a frictional resistance. There will be a frictional resistance with the vessel wall. Because of that, the blood does not move with the same velocity. Okay, does not move with the same velocity because of the frictional resistance with the wall and the blood. So the velocity is less. But when it comes to the next layer of the blood, so the resistance decreases, so slowly the velocity increases. At the center you can see we have a more velocity, right? So this laminar flow is maintained at a particular velocity, at a certain velocity. So when we are going beyond a particular velocity or a certain velocity, so then the laminar blood flow will be disturbed, and that will be having the turbulent blood flow, right? Turbulent blood flow. So that certain velocity is called as what? That is called as critical velocity. Okay, critical velocity. Hope you are understanding. So this laminar blood flow in the vessels is maintained at a particular velocity. Okay, so when we are going, when that certain velocity will be disturbed, then the whole blood flow will be disturbed. The laminar blood flow or the streamline blood flow will be lost. Okay, so that velocity, that particular type of velocity is called as a critical velocity. Okay, critical velocity. I think you understood about the laminar blood flow. What is laminar blood flow? The blood flows in the layers. Why the blood flows in the layers? Because of the frictional resistance. Where the velocity is less, at the wall of the vessel. Okay, at the wall of the vessel. So when the blood layer that layer comes towards the center, the velocity increases. Okay, so this is about the laminar blood flow. Okay, so next, coming to the turbulent blood flow. Okay, turbulent blood flow. This turbulent blood flow, you can see, when a critical velocity is reached, then the laminar blood flow will be lost. Okay, the laminar blood flow will be lost. So then this blood flow is called as a turbulent blood flow. Okay, turbulent blood flow. So this turbulence of the blood flow, it's mainly depends on the diameter of the vessel, viscosity of the blood. Okay, so the diameter of the vessel, so this is the diameter of the vessel and viscosity of the blood. So this blood flow, this turbulence, that is the turbulent blood flow, it mainly depends on the diameter of the vessel and the viscosity of the blood. Okay, so this turbulence is mainly assessed with the help of the Reynolds number. Okay, Reynolds number. So what is this Reynolds number? The Reynolds number is a non-dimensional number. It is a non-dimensional number which reflects the balance between the viscous and inertial forces. Okay, and inertial forces. What is this Reynolds number? It is a non-dimensional number which reflects the balance between the viscous and the inertial forces. So this is the number which will tell us about the instability of the flow, which will tell us about the turbulent blood flow. Okay, so if the Reynolds number, so if the Reynolds number is greater, okay, if the Reynolds number is greater, then the flow, the turbulence of the blood flow increases. If the Reynolds number is less, then the blood, turbulent will decrease. This turbulent will decrease. Okay. Normally, this Reynolds number, if it is less than 2000, it is mainly responsible for the laminar blood flow. If it is more than 3000, it is mainly responsible for the turbulent blood flow. Okay, turbulent blood flow. So this Reynolds number can be calculated with the help of this formula. What is this formula? Reynolds number. This RE is what? Reynolds number is equal to velocity, vessel diameter, and the blood density. And Poisson, that is blood viscosity. You can see the Reynolds number is directly proportional to the velocity, vessel diameter, the blood density, and it is inversely proportional to the blood viscosity. Okay, blood viscosity. So what are all the factors which are responsible for the turbulent blood flow? Velocity, vessel diameter, blood density, and blood viscosity. So the Reynolds number, if it is less than 2000, it is mainly responsible for the laminar blood flow. If it is more than 3000, it is mainly responsible for the turbulent blood flow. Okay, turbulent blood flow. So if velocity increases, the Reynolds number increases. If the vessel diameter increases, the Reynolds number increases. Okay, if the blood density increases, the Reynolds number increases. So it is inversely proportional. If the blood viscosity increases, Reynolds number decreases. If the blood viscosity decreases, Reynolds number increases. Okay, so this is how the Reynolds number is mainly. It will explains about the turbulent blood flow. It explains about the turbulent blood flow. Okay. So whenever there is the flow becomes turbulent, so it loses its laminar blood flow or the streamline blood flow. So what happens? It leads when the blood will be flowing, it leads sound. Okay, it leads sound. That processes sound. That is called as what? The murmurish sound. Okay, so those are called as murmurs at the heart whenever there is aortic stenosis, mitral stenosis, tricuspid stenosis. So whenever there is valvular stenosis occurs in the heart, so then the blood flow, because of the decreased process, so blood flow velocity increases, so the Reynolds number increases, so the turbulent blood flow occurs. That blood flow that leads to sound, those are called as what? Murmurs. Okay, so normally also I hope you have studied the recording of the blood pressure. Practical, have you studied about the recording of the blood pressure? I think you are going to study in detail about the recording of the blood pressure. So while recording, you know something about recording the blood pressure. So we are going to use the sphygmomanometer, stethoscope. Okay. So with the help of the sphygmomanometer and the stethoscope, we are going to record the blood pressure in the sitting posture, standing posture, and in the sleeping posture. Okay. So when we will be recording the blood pressure, systolic blood pressure and the diastolic pressure, we are going to explain you in detail during the practical classes. So during that time, when we apply the cuff to the arm, when we raise the pressure, when we are slowly releasing the pressure, then whatever the sounds we are hearing, those are the Korotkov sounds. So those mainly explains about the turbulent blood flow. So when we are tying, we are increasing the pressure and we are decreasing the vessel diameter. So that's why what happens, the diameter, because of the velocity increases. So because of that, the turbulence increases. Because of that, the flow will be having a sound. Those are called as a Korotkov sounds. Okay. So how we are going to differentiate between the laminar blood flow and the turbulent blood flow? What is the nature of the flow? Flow occurs in layers. Okay. So it is not in layers. The flow is disturbed. Okay. Velocity of the blood flow, it is below the critical velocity and it is above the critical velocity. What is the Reynolds number? It is less than 2000. It is above 3000. Okay. What is the turbulent blood flow will be associated with the sound? Here the sound will be this is soundless. Okay. So this is how we are going to differentiate between the laminar and the turbulent blood flow. Okay. So this is about the blood flow. Is there any confusion in the blood flow?
No, ma'am.
No, right.
No, ma'am.
Right. Okay. So we have two types of blood flow, laminar and the turbulent blood flow. The turbulent is mainly explained with the help of the Reynolds number. Okay. If the Reynolds number is less than 2000, it suggests the laminar blood flow. If it is above 3000, it suggests the turbulent blood flow, right? So now we are going to study about the relationship between flow, pressure and resistance. Okay, this will be explained with the help of the Ohm's law. Okay, Ohm's law. What is the relationship between the blood flow, pressure and the resistance? Okay, so already we have studied what is blood flow. Can anybody define? What is blood flow? Can anybody define? Flow is the volume displacement per unit time. Okay, blood flow is volume displacement per unit time, that is centimeter cube per second. Okay, so how this blood flow is related to the pressure? So what is pressure? What is pressure? Anybody define? So here the pressure means what? Because of the systole, because of the systole of the left ventricle, whatever the pressure is developed, that will be going to be will affect the blood flow. So what is this delta P? So the delta P is the difference between the pressure at one end and at the other end. So that is the pressure gradient. So this is called as what? Pressure gradient. So what is this delta P? This is the pressure gradient. What is this pressure gradient? So this is the difference between the pressure at one side to the other side. So you can see in this vessel we have the pressure at the initial end. So it is 50 millimeter of mercury, and at the other end it is 10 millimeter of mercury. So now what is the pressure gradient in the vessel 1? It is 40 millimeter of mercury. The pressure gradient is 40 millimeter of mercury in vessel 1, and it is 80 millimeter of mercury in vessel 2. You can see at here at this end you have 90 millimeter of mercury, and at this end we have 10 millimeter of mercury. So what is the pressure gradient here? It is about 80 millimeter of mercury. So I hope you understood about the pressure gradient. So this blood flow is directly proportional to the pressure gradient. If the pressure gradient is less, the blood flow is less, right? You can see, you can compare with the two vessels, vessel 1 and vessel 2. So we have a pressure, we have compared to vessel 2, we have less pressure gradient in the vessel 1. So the blood flow is less compared to the vessel 2. Okay, so the pressure gradient increases, the blood flow increases. The pressure gradient decreases, the blood flow decreases. Okay, so the blood flow is directly proportional to the pressure gradient. Okay, what is the pressure gradient? What is that is the difference in pressure. What is the difference in pressure? That is the difference in the pressure between the beginning and end of the vessel. Okay, what is the pressure gradient? It is the difference in pressure between the beginning and end of the vessel is called as what? Pressure gradient. It is expressed in millimeter of mercury. Okay, it is expressed in millimeter of mercury. So this is one factor. So this is one physical factor, that is the pressure gradient. So the blood flows according to the pressure gradient. Okay, according to the pressure gradient. If the pressure gradient, so it flows from high pressure to low pressure. Okay, it flows from high pressure gradient to low pressure gradient. Okay, it flows from high pressure gradient to low pressure gradient. Okay, so now what is resistance? So we have studied that the blood flow is directly proportional to the pressure gradient. How blood flow is related to the resistance? How the blood flow is related to the resistance? So what is resistance? What is resistance? Can anybody define?
Obstruction to the flow.
What?
Obstruction.
Right, very good. It is the obstruction to the blood flow. Already we have studied during while we were studying about the functional classification of the blood flow. Where is the site which is mainly responsible for the resistance, the vessels which create the resistance to the blood flow? What are those vessels? Where mainly the resistance is?
Arteriole.
Huh?
Arteriole.
Arterioles and
Very good.
meta-arterioles.
Arterioles, precapillary sphincter. Why they resist the blood flow?
Thick muscle core.
Right, very good. They have the smooth muscles, okay? They have the smooth muscles in the vessel. So the bigger aorta and the bigger vessels have the elastic tissues in the wall. That's why they have got the property of recoiling and stretching. So that's why they are called as what? Wind Kessel vessels. Arterioles, the precapillary sphincter. So these have the smooth muscles in the wall. Because of that, they have got the property of the resistance. They produce the resistance to the blood flow. So when they produce the resistance to the blood flow, they will reduce the blood flow. Okay. So this will lead to the exchange of the gases. So this is the main why they will resist the blood flow, because they slow down the velocity. If the velocity is more, then the kinetic energy is more, then the lateral pressure is less. If the lateral pressure is less, then the perfusion will be less. So to improve perfusion, so the nature is so intelligent. So how the nature has sharpened all the structures, you can analyze so beautifully. The nature has made the every a single structure so beautifully the nature has created. So that these vessels resist the blood flow. Because of the resistance, the velocity decreases. Because the kinetic velocity, that is the dynamic pressure component, decreases, the lateral pressure increases. Because the lateral pressure increases, the perfusion of the tissues occurs. Because the perfusion of the tissue occurs, so then there is exchange of the gases, nutrients, waste products, etc. Kindly mute the mic. Don't disturb the class. Okay, so this is how the nature has created the different structures in our body. So the resistance is what? It is the obstruction to the blood flow. So we have again the peripheral resistance. What is this peripheral resistance? It is the resistance offered to the blood flow in the peripheral circulation. In the peripheral circulation, what is peripheral circulation? That is again the arterioles and the precapillary sphincter. So how the peripheral resistance is developed? Because of the circulation in the arterioles and in the meta-arterioles, etc. Okay, meta-arterioles, etc. So how this blood flow is related to the resistance? It is inversely related. Blood flow is inversely related to the resistance. So if there is increase in the resistance, then there is decrease in the blood flow. If there is decrease in the resistance, there is increase in the blood flow. So the blood flow is, so this is Ohm's law. What Ohm's law suggests? So the blood flow is directly proportional to the pressure gradient, and is inversely proportional to the resistance. Okay, resistance. How? So this, like this, these all three components are interrelated: blood flow, pressure gradient, and resistance. This is called as what? Ohm's law. Is there any confusion in the Ohm's law? Okay, so Ohm's law, so we are now applying in our this physiology, we are applying to the fluid variable, but actually this is for the electrical variable. How we are comparing? This voltage is compared to the pressure. Okay, voltage is comparing to the pressure, and the current is is comparing to the flow. Then charge is comparing to the volume, and the resistance is compared to the resistance again, that is the delta P by Q. So that is pressure gradient divided by blood flow. That when we are exchanging this, when we reshuffle the formula, that is Q is equal to delta P by R, when we are going to calculate the resistance, then the resistance becomes, resistance is directly proportional to the pressure and it is inversely proportional to the blood flow. Okay, so this capacitance in the electrical variable is equal to capacitance in the fluid variable. How we are going to compare the electrical variable to the fluid variable in physiology? Okay, I hope you understood. This is very important and it is very simple concept, so which is explaining us about the relationship between the blood flow, pressure and the volume, right? Blood flow, pressure and the volume. So the Q, that is Q, blood flow is equal to pressure gradient is divided by resistance. So when we present in the form of graph, so this x-axis depicts the perfusion pressure, the y-axis depicts the flow. So this is how in high resistance the perfusion pressure is less and also the flow will be less. But in case of low resistance, so the perfusion pressure, so how the flow will be increasing, you can see how they are interrelated. So how the three components are related. Okay, so this is about the Ohm's law. Okay, Ohm's law tells us about the relationship between the pressure gradient, blood flow and the resistance, whereas the Bernoulli's principle explained us about the relationship between the velocity and the pressure. Okay, now we are going to study the relationship between the viscosity of the blood or the viscosity of the fluid with the radius of the tube, or with the radius and the length of the tube. Okay, viscosity of the blood flow, viscosity of the blood or the fluid, and the radius or the length of the tube. Okay, so this will be explained, this relationship will be explained with the help of the Poiseuille-Hagen formula. Okay, with the help of the Poiseuille-Hagen formula. So this viscosity, again, it measures the resistance to the blood flow. It measures what is viscosity? What is viscosity?
Resistance in the fluid.
Yes. So this is mainly the hematological hindrance. So what is the whatever the resistance because of the blood composition is producing, this is called as what? Hematological hindrance. Hematological hindrance to the blood flow. This viscosity mainly depends on the factors like hematocrit. What is hematocrit?
Hematocrit is the packed cell volume, which depends
Packed
mainly on
cell
the
volume.
number of,
Yes.
depending
Packed
on
cell
number of
volume.
RBCs
Yes, very
in
good.
blood.
It mainly depends on the number of red blood cells. Okay, so the hematocrit, it is the packed cell volume, which is mainly depends on the number of red cells. Okay, number of red cells. This viscosity of the blood mainly depends on what? Hematocrit, composition of the plasma. We know already the plasma proteins. Then then the resistance of the blood cells to deform. You know, the blood cells are biconcave in nature. They can form the whatever the shape they can travel because of their nature. So when the blood cells lose their normal nature, like in case of hereditary spherocytosis, then also the viscosity increases because the blood cells are not moving because they have lost their normal nature of biconcavity. So that's why there will be increased viscosity, and also the temperature will also affect the viscosity. Viscosity will be affected by the packed cell volume, then the composition of the plasma, that is plasma proteins, and also the nature of the blood, that is the blood structure, blood cell structure, that is the red, if the red cells become deformed. Okay, and also the temperature. So how this viscosity is related to the length of the vessel and the radius of the vessel. So this will be explained with the help of the Hagen-Poiseuille formula. So we have the vessel. Okay, so this is the flow. This is the flow, that is the blood flow, that is the displacement of the volume per unit time. Okay, so then we have a pressure gradient from high pressure to low pressure, and so that is the difference in the pressure, that is the pressure gradient, and the length of the vessel and the radius of the vessel and the viscosity of the vessel. Okay, and the viscosity of the vessel, how they are related. So Poiseuille has formed the equation, so that states the blood flow is equal to volume divided by time. Okay, so the volume divided by time. So this volume is again is equal to, with the help of this formula. Okay, what is this formula? So Q is blood flow, we all know. So this is the constant. So this is the pressure gradient. This is the radius. This is the length of the tube, and this is the viscosity of this tube. Okay, this is the viscosity. Okay, this is the viscosity. The blood flow is directly proportional to the pressure gradient. and it is directly proportional to the fourth power of the radius. If you can see the radius, you can see the effect of radius on the blood flow. It is 4 times. It is having 4 times. So blood flow is directly proportional to the radius, but also 4 times it is directly proportional. If 1 time the radius increases, 4 times the blood flow increase in the blood flow, radius increases, the blood flow increases. Okay, so then the length increases, the blood flow decreases, the viscosity increases, the blood flow decreases. The blood flow is inversely proportional to the viscosity and the length, directly proportional to the radius and the pressure gradient. Okay, pressure gradient. So this is how the Hagen-Poiseuille law states. You can see so this Hagen-Poiseuille tells us about the different determinants. Okay, determinants of resistance to blood flow. So this is the blood flow. What are all the different determinants of the resistance? How the resistance is produced? What are the factors which are mainly responsible for the resistance to the blood flow? Okay, so this is explained with the help of the Hagen-Poiseuille equation. Okay, so the resistance is directly proportional to the pressure, it is inversely proportional to the blood flow. So you can see the resistance is directly proportional to the viscosity and the length of the tube, and the resistance is inversely proportional to the radius. You can see 4 times. Okay, so if the radius decreases, resistance increases. If the resistance increases, if the radius increases, the resistance decreases. Okay, so this is Hagen-Poiseuille formula. You should remember this. So this mainly tells us about the determinants of the resistance to blood flow. Okay, determinants of the resistance to the blood flow. Okay, mainly the resistance to blood flow depends on mainly 3 factors: the viscosity of the blood, okay, blood vessel length, and the radius of the blood vessel. Just to remember how the viscosity of the blood is related to the resistance. Resistance is directly proportional to the viscosity. So this viscosity, it depends on the hematocrit. So the hematocrit, okay, hematocrit, that is the packed cell volume. So this x-axis is showing the hematocrit, that is the packed cell volume, and the y-axis is showing viscosity. Okay, viscosity. How it is related? You can see in 3 tubes we have the normal blood, the anemic blood, and the polycythemic blood. So the polycythemia, we have a more hematocrit, okay, and in anemia less hematocrit because of the packed cell volume, and the normal. So this is the normal. So how? So this is the viscosity of the water, this is the viscosity of the plasma, this is the normal viscosity of the blood. So when the hematocrit increases, the viscosity of the whole blood also increases. When? So this is the normal blood viscosity, this is about 40, okay, normal blood viscosity. So hematocrit. So normal viscosity, it will be at the 40, that the hematocrit will be at 40, then we will be having the viscosity of the blood will be this much, okay, viscosity of the blood will be at this level. So when there is increase in the normal, there is increase in the hematocrit, this is the normal hematocrit, and this is the normal viscosity at this point. So when the hematocrit increases, right, when hematocrit increases than normal, then the viscosity also increases. Okay, so when then the viscosity also increases. This viscosity will be increasing the resistance to the blood flow. Okay, increasing the resistance to the blood flow. The resistance is directly proportional to the viscosity. Again, this viscosity depends on the hematocrit. Okay, hematocrit. So now other factors like so we have so what is viscosity? It's again mechanical property of the fluid that slows down their flow due to internal forces. Okay, that is Poiseuille, Newton's definition. So this is how we are going to explain. So these factors, these different internal forces are called as what? Rheological properties of the blood. Okay, these are called as what? Rheological properties of the blood. So this viscosity is equal to shear stress divided by shear rate. That is, okay, this is flow, and this will be explained with the help of this formula, and you can see the normal RBC major, how much it is, what is the size of the normal RBC, 7.2 to 7.5 microns, what is the diameter, what is the thickness, this all will determine the viscosity of the blood. Okay, viscosity of the blood. So if the RBCs will be deformed, like in case of hereditary spherocytosis and all, they will not move because they lose the biconcave shape. They will not move in the vessels. So if they will not move, they will store there only. They will aggregate. The RBC will aggregate. If the RBC will aggregate, the viscosity increases. Okay, the viscosity increases. So if we have a high RBC aggregation, the viscosity is high. Okay, so the deformation also, you can see the relationship between the shear rate and the viscosity. So this RBC deformation will lead to RBC aggregation. Okay, so this all factors like the RBC deformation, then the packed cell volume, the shape of the RBC, then we have the different factors like temperature, then we have plasma proteins. So these all factors will affect the viscosity. Viscosity in turn, it is directly proportional to the resistance to the, okay, resistance, that it is directly proportional to the resistance. Again, the resistance is, if the resistance increases, the blood flow decreases. Okay, so it is inversely proportional to the blood flow. Okay. So you can see here the viscosity of the blood flowing through capillary tubes becomes lower as the tube diameter becomes smaller, reaches a minimum value around 6 to 8 micrometer. You can see this is called as what? Lindquist effect. Farias-Lindquist effect. Okay. So what is this Lindquist effect? So it tells us about the relationship between the diameter and the viscosity and the blood flow. Okay, blood flow, you can see. You can see the diameter here. So this is the 15 micrometer. This is the 7 micrometer. This is the 4.5 micrometer. So the viscosity of the blood flowing through capillary tubes becomes lower as the tube diameter becomes smaller, when it reaches a minimum value of around 6 to 8 micrometer. Okay. So now till now we have studied about the viscosity. Okay, viscosity. How the viscosity is related to the blood flow. Okay. So what the Poisson's law states, it tells about the relationship between the blood flow with the different resistance, different factors which will form the resistance. What are those? We have studied, that is the viscosity. Now we are going to study about the vessel length. Okay, vessel length. Greater the length of the vessel, more will be the resistance to the blood flow. If we have the resistance is directly proportional to the length of the vessel. Okay, it is directly proportional to the length of the vessel. If we have a length of the vessel is more, the resistance will be more. If the length will be less, the resistance will be less. Okay. Then coming to the radius of the vessel. Okay. So the radius of the vessel. So you know that resistance is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the radius. You can see in 3 different vessels having different diameters. So the diameter of this vessel is 1. Okay, 1. Then this is 2 and 4. Okay, so here at this level we have pressure is 100 millimeter of mercury. So you can see the velocity of the blood in this, that is 1 ml per minute. So the 16 ml per minute, so 256 ml per minute. So it is 4 times there will be change in the flow of the blood four times. If we increase like 1 to 2, then 16 ml, you can see from 1 ml to 16 ml it is increased. If we increase by 4, so 256 ml per minute the blood flow will be increased. So the blood flow is directly proportional to the radius, fourth power of the radius. The resistance is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the radius. Okay, if the radius increases, then the resistance increases. Okay, so if the radius increases, the resistance decreases. So you can see slowly, gradually there is increase in the radius. Gradually there is increase in the radius. So the resistance is decreasing and the blood flow is increasing. The blood flow is increasing. Okay, blood flow is increasing. So when we reduce the radius, right, when we reduce the radius, so then the resistance increases to the blood flow, and resistance increases and the blood flow decreases. Okay, and the blood flow decreases. This is how the radius is related to the blood flow and the radius. Okay, resistance. Okay. Okay, so this is how, this is again the graph showing the diameter to the relationship between the diameter, that is the radius, and the blood flow. Are you following? Is it one way?
No,
Is
ma'am.
it audible? Is it audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So now, so we have the resistance, that is peripheral resistance. Peripheral resistance is due to what? That is due to again the arteriolar smooth muscles, precapillary sphincter smooth muscles. So what is this peripheral resistance? The resistance offered to the blood flow at the periphery, the peripheral circulation. Okay, so that will be again in two components, like series peripheral resistance and parallel peripheral resistance. Okay, so this is how, okay, the parallelly all the blood vessels, how they are arranged. The series, they are arranged in the form of series and they are arranged in the form of parallel. So because of this, because of this nature of the whole closed system, this hydraulic system, the heart and the blood vessels, so we'll be having two types of peripheral resistance will be formed, that is series and parallel resistance. Okay. So, okay, so this is how the Hagen-Poiseuille formula, Hagen-Poiseuille law states the relationship between the pressure gradient, the radius, the viscosity and the length. Okay, so this resistance is related to how the resistance will be formed with by viscosity, length and the radius. I hope you understood this concept. Hagen-Poiseuille equation. Is there any confusion in this? Understood?
No, ma'am. Yes, I understood.
Anyone? Have you understood about the Hagen-Poiseuille equation?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, Srishti. So the Hagen-Poiseuille equation, it mainly tells about the relationship with the blood flow and the resistance. Okay, blood flow and the resistance, the offering factors, the resistance. Again, this resistance depend on the different physical factors like viscosity, length, radius, etc. Okay, so the viscosity again depends on the hematocrit, the deformation of the RBC membrane, temperature, plasma proteins, like that. Okay. So now we are going to study about the relationship between the pressure, tension and the radius. Okay, the pressure, tension and the radius, that will be explained with the help of Pascal's principle. Okay, so again, so this, what is this Laplace law says? Pascal's principle, this is home assignment for you. Home assignment for you. Pascal's principle is home assignment for you. So you write for a 3-mark question. So now we'll study the relationship between the pressure, radius and the tension, that will be explained with the help of the Laplace's law. Okay, that will be explained with the help of the Laplace's law. What this Laplace's law explains? The Laplace's law explains the relationship between the distending pressure, the relationship between the distending pressure, the tension. So this is the tension, the relationship between the distending pressure, the tension, okay, and the radius, okay, and the radius. So this is the radius. So the Laplace's law explains the relationship between the extending pressure, the tension. So this is the pressure, this is the pressure, so this is the tension and the radius, okay, and the radius. The larger the vessel, the diameter, the larger the wall tension. If you have a large radius vessel, the vessel having the larger radius, so the tension will be more, okay. The tension will be more to withstand a given internal fluid. So if you have more radius, then we will be having a more internal fluid, okay, internal fluid which will be holding within the vessel. So to hold that internal fluid in the vessel, we need to have more tension, more wall tension. So how these are related, so the pressure, tension and radius, how they are related, that will be explained with the help of the Laplace's law, okay, Laplace's law. So the Laplace law tells the pressure is equal to, so that is the pressure is equal to tension 2T divided by R, 2T divided by R, or tension is equal to PR divided by 2. That is, tension is directly proportional to the pressure and the radius, okay, or pressure is directly proportional to the tension or inversely proportional to the radius, okay, like that. So you can do permutations and combinations, you can change the formulas, whatever the factor you can require, you can calculate with the help of the other factors, right? So this Laplace's law mainly tells us about the relationship between the pressure, radius and the tension, okay. So the pressure is equal to 2T divided by R. So the 2T divided by R, that is, pressure is directly proportional to the tension and it is inversely proportional to the radius. If the radius increases, pressure decreases, okay. If the radius decreases, pressure increases. If the pressure increases, tension increases. If the pressure decreases, tension decreases, like that. Again, it is 2 times, you can see 2 times tension, 2T. If you bring this 2 here, 2T, P is equal to 2T divided by R. So that is, pressure is 2 times directly proportional to the tension, 2 times. If 1 time the pressure increases, 2 times the tension increases, like that, okay. So this is the Laplace's law. So this is Laplace's law. This Laplace law applies in different parts in our body, like wherever we have the organs like bladder, in the bladder there will be application of this Laplace's law. In the vessels there will be application of the Laplace's law. Then we have in the heart, like that, okay. So you can see in the aneurysm. So you can apply this knowledge in the vessels in condition like aneurysm, like in case of aneurysm. So what happens in the aneurysms? What happens in the aneurysm? So what is aneurysm? It is the dilation or dilatation of the vessel, okay. It is dilatation of the vessel. In the dilated vessel, what happens? There will be accumulation of the blood, okay. So that will increases the wall tension. So this wall tension again, that will lead to, so this is the radius. So that will be a vicious cycle in the aneurysm. Again the dilatation of the vessel, again more accumulation of the blood, again increase in the tension. So like that. So the aneurysm will be increases because of this because of this Laplace law. So the Laplace, this is here the positive feedback mechanism. You know the positive feedback mechanism. If increase in one leads to increase in the other, like that. Okay. So wall tension increases, the pressure increases. The pressure increases, the wall tension increases. Because of that, the diameter. So here the wall becomes more and more stretched. Okay. So the aneurysm occurs like that. Okay. Right. This completes the different factors or the different principles which are mainly responsible for the blood flow. So those are called as hemodynamics, right? What is hemodynamic or what is hemodynamics? So it is the branch. The hemodynamics is the branch which tells us about the different mechanisms or different principles which are mainly responsible for the flow of the blood within the hydraulic system or within the closed cardiovascular system. Okay, closed cardiovascular system. What are the different factors? What are the different physical principles? So what are the different factors are involved? How they are related? They will be we have studied those and the relationship of different physical factors like resistance, blood flow, viscosity, velocity, okay, the pressure gradient, then resistance, then length of the vessel, radius of the vessel. These all are the different. So these all are the different physical factors. So these all are the different physical factors. You can see. So these all are the different physical factors. Okay. So peripheral resistance, blood flow, pressure gradient, energy, vessel diameter, area, blood velocity, blood viscosity, forces. These all physical factors are involved in the flow of the blood. These are called as hemodynamics. And how they are interrelated, we have studied in detail with the help of the Ohm's law, Bernoulli's principle, Hagen-Poiseuille law. Then we have studied Reynolds number. Okay. Then we have studied Laplace's law. These are the different laws and the principles which will explain us about the different the relationship between the different physical factors, right? So, and also we have studied the functional and physiological classification of the vessels. Okay, is there any confusion in this concepts, whatever we have discussed till now? Do you have anybody have any confusion or anything you have not understood in this concept? All are disconnected? Still there?
We are here.
Yes.
Understood, ma'am.
Chaitanya, you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this Bernoulli's principle tells us about the relationship between the velocity and the pressure. Okay. We have a laminar and the streamline and the turbulent blood flow that will be explained with the help of the Reynolds number. The flow, pressure and the resistance, the relationship will be explained with the help of the Ohm's law. So the Poiseuille-Hagen formula tells us about the relationship between the blood flow and the resistance. The resistance will be affected by different factors like the radius, length, viscosity, etc. Okay. So then the law of Laplace explains us that the relationship between the tension, radius and the pressure. Okay, and the pressure. So you have to read and write about the plasma skimming. What is this plasma skimming? And what is critical closing pressure? We have studied critical velocity while we were studying about the turbulent blood flow. Critical velocity we have studied, but what is critical closing pressure? You have to read and write. Plasma skimming you have to read and write. Okay. If not any questions, we'll conclude the topic today. Today's topic. You have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Right. You take care of your parents, okay? Yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.